Yesterday I made some video. I set out to make a little bit of video to preempt some other things that I'd already shot so I could finish up a couple of videos. And it's a good plan and was working pretty good there for a while. And I got a lot done and got some things done so I could get my other videos finished. But before it was all over with, I got sidetracked and went on a rant about the episode I had with an auctioneer, and got way too long and probably way too personal. So I cut all that out of the video that I was working on at the time, and thought I'd throw it away, but can't tell whether I'm feeling good just to get something off my shoulders that had been bothering me, or feeling bad because I'm or wasn't big enough man to let it go. I feels like it's something I should have got over and just went on, but I didn't. And now that I got some footage made of it, I'm going to go ahead and put it in a video, but I didn't want to mess up an already good video that I had by putting it in there. So several weeks ago I did the same thing. I had a day where I set out to put together several little short sessions, and intended to make one video or more than one video out of those sessions, and turned out I had way too much footage and ended up being, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 6 different videos, all shot on the same day in the same t-shirt. It looked like there for a month that I had on a red t-shirt with Indiana across the front of it every day. You guys probably thought that shirt was beginning to smell bad, but that was all shot in one day. And I've still got 2 little short sessions from that day that never have been put on the air in the video, and so I'm probably going to put those 2 or maybe one of those in this video today, and you'll see the other one a little later on. This is entitled Pine Sea Chest. Betty and I met Richard and Margie Day in 1980 when Kurt had an antique mall on 15th Street. They stopped there and brought some things from our booth. I can't remember all they purchased the first time, but among them was a mirror from a secretary bookcase. They owned an antique store and furniture stripping business just this side of Paoli Square on State Road 37. We became good friends and bought and sold things from each other over a long period of time. I bought this pine seaman's chest from their store. Richard had just stripped it in a rollover tank, and it had a strong chemical smell when it was open. I was never able to get rid of the smell. I finally sealed it in by painting the inside of the chest with an all-based blue paint. I bought the chest to resell, but I paid too much for it and was unable to resell it for a profit. It's just as well because I liked it a lot. I love its form, hand-wrought strap hinges and handles. And now, since Richard and Margie are gone, I'm glad I have something I bought from them. I have a sheriff's badge I bought from Margie after Richard died. She had it for sale at Peddler's Corner. But this seaman's chest is the only thing I have, which was purchased from Yesterday Antiques in Paoli, Indiana. I intended to talk to you today about continue the discussion that we started in the last video about things that are going on in our country and things that we need to know the truth about. But I decided in this video, first of all, things are getting a little heavy there, and so I decided in this video not to go there. I'll come back there following up on what I said about Martin Luther King and disorder and chaos and lawlessness in our country today. I'll get back on that event maybe in a future video. But in keeping with the thing I've been telling you about truth, I'm going to put another teaser out there. I'm going to tell you a story about an auction and an auctioneer. And the teaser is, I've been to a jillion auctions, and that's what this story I'm about to tell you is about. But I have a lot of experience with auctions, and I can tell you lots of stories about auctions, and I'm going to go into one of these days a little tutorial about auctions. Auctions I've been to, strategies for attending auctions, auction stories, different auctioneers, things like that about auctions, simply because I've been to a lot of them, think I have something to say about them. One of these days I'm going to get around to saying that. So that's the teaser for this video, and here's the story. I was at an auction once, and this has been in the last 2 or 3 years. Can't tell you exactly how long ago it was, but it was recently. The auctioneer, I've known him since we were both young men. I always felt of him as or considered him a friend, but more like an acquaintance. And I found out, actually as a result of this story, was part of that, he didn't necessarily consider me a friend, just a business acquaintance or someone who attended his auctions. But I was at an auction he was having, and he was selling ox yoke. And I'm not even going to explain to you what an ox yoke is. If you don't know, you're probably not watching a video like this anyway. He was selling an ox yoke, and it was over away from the main things that they'd had in the sale that they'd gone through and arranged to sell and get the top dollar out of. It was over in an area where there was lots of junk, and they were trying to move through it fast. And he had this ox yoke there. And the yoke, the big major part of it, had one of the hoops that go around the oxen's neck in it. And the other hoop was missing. It wasn't really missing. It was over there somewhere else against the wall, and I'd seen it over there. And it was stuck down in a box with some other things that were going to cause it to be unknown when you went to try to buy it. And so I was having a discussion with this auctioneer about maybe he should send one of his guys over there and get the rest of this and bring it here before he sold that, so he could sell it all together, and it would bring, I thought, more money that way than selling it, part of it here incomplete, and letting the other part of it go maybe when everybody had left the sale already over there among some even worse junk. So I made that suggestion to him, and I don't know whether he was having a bad day or what was going on with him, but it aggravated him that I'd even suggest such a thing to him. And so he began to tell me about how long he had been an auctioneer, and I agreed with him that I probably was at his first auction. In fact, I think I mentioned him in one of his first auctions in one of my first videos. But I agreed that he had he was a good auctioneer, probably knew a lot about auctioneering, but I said, I think I know a little bit about auctioneering too. In the length of time that you've been an auctioneer and having auctions, I've been an auction goer, and I am absolutely certain that I've been to more auctions in my life than you have. In fact, quite a few more, because you're busy as a farmer, and when you have an auction, it takes up a part of your week. You don't have time to go to everybody else's auctions. And I said, there was a time not too long ago when I went to 384 auctions in 1 year. Not only did I go to 384 auctions in 1 year, there was a period of time there for 3, maybe 4 years where I went to more than 300 auctions in all of those years. He looked me right square in the face, serious as sin, pointed his finger at me, and he said, "You are a liar." Went through me like a dose of salt. But I bit my tongue, decided maybe he was having a bad day. Worst case scenario, he just did something stupid. He had insulted one of the guys that had been to probably 70-80% of every auction he ever had since he started, and a guy that liked him and thought a lot of him. He had just flat called him a liar. He hadn't said, "Boy, Luke, that's hard to believe," or "Wow, how did you go to that many auctions in 1 year? That's more than one a day." He didn't say anything like that. He said, "You are a liar." Well, I wasn't a liar, and I'm going to tell you, and this is for the record, for you and him and anybody else that cares. There was a time when, and I was working full-time at General Motors during this time, but I had 4 antique booths in 4 different locations, cities. The furthest one north was in Plainfield, Indiana. The furthest one south was in Madison, Indiana. So that covered half the state. And then I had one in Bedford and one in Mitchell. And that was back in the day when things were a lot better in that business than they are today. You could sell a lot of stuff. So to keep 4 of them going at once, you had to cover a lot of ground, and you had to go to a lot of auctions. And I did go to sometimes 3 or 4 auctions in one day. There were a lot of Saturdays. I went to 3 auctions during the day, one of them being his, and then one in the evening out east of town. So there were Saturdays sometimes where I went to 4 auctions. There was a regular auction every Tuesday. There was a regular auction every Thursday within 30 miles of me. So I went to a lot of auctions. I didn't guess that I went to 384 auctions. They give you a bidder's card when you go to an auction. And I had a system then. Of course, I had to keep track of all my mileage, so it was recorded in a book too. Part of filling out my taxes was getting credit for that mileage going to these auctions. But when I got home in the evening from being at an auction, or from being at auctions, I had the bidder's card that I received at the auction. I took one of those hole punchers, you know, the one that just in your hand and stick it on the end and punch a hole. I punched a hole in the top end of those bidder cards. I wrote the date on the bottom of the card, and I had a hook over there on the other side in that barn, my workshop, my pole barn, where all my inventory was kept in those days. I had a hook hanging up on a balcony on one of the walls there. And I took those cards from that day's auctions and I put them on that hook. It was actually made from a welding rod. It was a little hook that went over a 2x4, it come down and then up, and it was quite long. And I stuck those cards on there. At the end of the year, I took those cards down, put a rubber band around them, and started the process over again. And another thing that I did was I counted those cards. And that particular year, I was impressed myself that I'd been to 384 auctions in that year. I hadn't given it a thought that something like that could be possible. But I went through them, counted them all again, looked at the dates. They were all from that year, 384. I wrote that number down in a calendar. I used to get those calendars at work with it's like a book. And I kept track. I can go back in that calendar, tell you all kinds of things that happened in my life because I wrote it in that calendar. I wrote that down in that calendar. That's the only reason that I know that number. That's the only reason I knew that number was accurate. Well, there it is. Can you see it? That ox yoke hanging there from the rafters of this barn. It's got chairs all around it now. It just hung there by itself for a long time, but I piled some chairs up on top of that wagon one day, and they're kind of obstructing the view. It's been through several yard sales. It's the only place it's ever been for sale. It's got $145 on it in chalk. I'm going to make that the object of the general store today. And I'm going to offer that ox yoke to you, if you're watching this video, for $110. And I don't know where you could get another one for that price. I do know we could get another one for about $195 or $215. I can't remember exactly what. There's one here in the county for sale. It's not as good as that one, but they want a lot more for it. That one's for sale today, $110. That price is good until August the 1st. If you want that ox yoke for $110, I'm the hard times guy. Come and get it. I place a high value on the truth. And because I expect the truth from people dealing with me, I place a high value on my reputation as someone who tells the truth. People who know me well can vouch for that. So maybe for someone to look me right in the eye and say you are a liar has more of an effect on me than it should have. But I don't like it. And I'm going to try to put this particular incident behind me now. But I've carried this around for a while. Longer than I should have. Usually I would have even not only forgiven it, I'd have forgotten all about it. Except that it dealt with this area of the truth. And I got a challenge of my honesty from a place where I least expected it. So I'm going to call this the end of it. I'm the Hard Times Guy. Subscribe to my channel. Watch my videos. Until the next time.